Okay, so now we are on the next part. You guys are going to see two pigs here in front of you. One would be internal dissection, but I want to show you guys the difference between male and female within the pigs. So the first thing you guys are going to do when you get your little piggy is to go through and identify male or female. So we're laying them on the dorsal side. And what you guys want to look for is basically the umbilical cord. So here's my umbilical cord. You're going to notice it's tied off with thread. If this was a male, you would see another opening, or you would see an opening directly underneath the umbilical cord. If this is a female, our opening is going to be down at the base of the tail. So if you go to the base of the tail, whether you have male or female, you'll notice the anus, which is your first opening there. Your next opening for the female, if this is a female, she will have the vaginal opening right below it. So we have two openings there, anus, and then there's the second opening identifying a female. With our male, same thing. You'll notice the opening for the anus down there. However, I do not have a second opening. However, you will notice swelling here, which is going to be the scrotum. And then if you go all the way up towards the umbilical cord, you're going to notice your second opening, and that opening is for the penis. So directly underneath the umbilical cord. If you are doing the male and you're dissecting the male, it's going to be a little bit different because when you dissect and we make the line, you'll see it on the female here in a moment, you're going to go straight up. You're going to go off to the side, either to left or right, and you're going to go around both the penis as well as the umbilical cord and then hit the middle straight up. The female, we can almost go straight up till we hit the umbilical cord and then go around just a little bit. So we are going to go through and kind of dissect this out. So you are laying it on you guys are going to lay it on the dorsal side, so back side is down. Kind of spread it out just a little bit. And this is if you are working with a partner, this is where you can utilize the partner. We are not utilizing scalpels here. So you are only using your scissors, your probes, and your forceps. And we're actually going to start, let's backtrack a little bit. Let's go into the mouth. So we have to learn some parts of the mouth here. When you go and open the mouth, you're going to notice the tongue is out. And when you go to open it, please, please, please be careful. They have very sharp incisors there. So you guys can actually see those teeth on the top. They also have them on the bottom there. So don't just go shoving your finger in the mouth thinking that you guys are going to go opening it, kind of like what we did with the frog. Just like the frog, we want to extend the mouth just a little bit. So I'm going to take my scissors and go straight into the mouth. And I'm going to make a cut. It will go through bone. Remember, the bones should be a little bit softer. These pigs are a little bit larger than I would like, but that's okay. Same thing. We want to go in as far as we can, and we want to make a cut. At this point, fingers are in the mouth. Grab top and bottom, thumbs in, and kind of give it a little bit of a stretch. I'm going to try to give you guys a better view of what we have going on. Okay, so if we're looking at the internal mouth here, a couple of parts. We know that the incisors are there. You guys should be able to feel if you've got the teeth on both sides. You also have the hard palate, which is something that we talked about within the human skeleton and the skull. So there's my hard palate with the little ridges in it. If you go back a little bit farther, we're going to hit the soft palate. So that one doesn't make noise. You can actually hear the sound on the hard palate as opposed to the soft palate. You have the tongue. And then as we go all the way back, we want to go to the opening of the glottis. So you should be able to see, I'm going to wipe this out just a little bit of liquid from washing them so that you guys can get a better view of what's going on here. So if you go all the way back, you guys should be able to see that opening to the glottis, which is going to be right there. You guys can actually kind of put your little probe down there, and that's going to lead all the way down to the epiglottis. And then eventually down to the lower organs. So within your diagrams, this is one of the ones that you guys are going to be seeing. Within the packet, you guys will see this online. So you guys should be able to identify the hard palate, the soft palate, the opening to the glottis, the epiglottis, the tongue, and the little structures on the end of the tongue, kind of like little taste buds for them. So you should notice that it's not going to be as smooth as the rest of the tongue there. Once you're done that, lay him on his dorsal side. We want to go through our internal dissection. So I have the female here. I'm going to start all the way down between the two hind legs. They'll have a little extra skin here. And with our scissors, we're basically just going to make our first little incision. We don't want to go too deep because we're going to start cutting in through the tissues now. So there's my first cut right through the skin layer. You're going to notice I have muscle underneath, and we kind of want to make a little pocket, kind of like what you did with your frog in first year bio. Now I'm kind of in that cavity. Extend it both directions. Once again, we're just utilizing the scissors. If you need to use a probe, that's fine. And we want to cut up along the side. I've still got connective tissue here, or fascia, so we want to kind of go through and just trim it away. You're going to notice there is the umbilical cord, so I'm going to kind of trim up along one side of the umbilical cord, and then I'll go straight through. So I'm going to go a little deeper here in a moment. And you can see I'm starting to open the cavity right there. That's where I want to be. I want to be a little bit deeper into that particular abdominal cavity, as well as the pelvic cavity, which is lower down here. So right now, I have now cut into that particular cavity. My umbilical cord, you should be able to see it on the reverse side here. So I'm going to go one side or the other of it. Then we're going to continue. As you're cutting, do not stick the scissors down. You want to make sure that you're going on a straight line. Once you get underneath that skin, lift the tip of your scissors up so that you're not cutting through those particular organs as you go through. So if you have a partner, this is where they would want to kind of stretch those front legs for you. And lots of muscle. Eventually you're going to hit the thoracic cavity, which means that you're going to kind of hit that breastbone within there. Do the best that you can to kind of cut through it. And we'll talk about a few more things that we kind of have to cut through here. But you guys want to send that all the way up. Don't worry about the other little extra stuff there along the way. We'll come back for that. But you guys want to go all the way up with that cut to the little hairs on his chinny chin chin, way up there. And the reason is you guys are going to see that heart is going to be laying really high up as well. We also want to look at some of the glands that are up there. Okay. So this is about where we are right now, which means we still have a lot of stuff that is connected. You kind of want to go back. You have the thoracic cavity, which is contained. So you want to go along the side, and you want to make sure that it's all cleared out. This, what you see here, is the muscle known as the diaphragm. So the diaphragm runs right across my abdominal and my thoracic cavity. So what I want to do is along each side, I want to go through and just slice along the side to make sure that that diaphragm is cut as far back as possible. And you'll see it on this side as well. So there's that diaphragm that I want to cut back. Spin here a second so I can see what I'm doing. And trim it back as far as you can, that particular muscle. Get that cavity kind of cleared off from the abdominal and thoracic walls. So we're kind of loose. I still have my umbilical cord cut, so I'm going to cut that little artery that's there as well. And I want to make sure everything's kind of opened up all the way through. Cut the umbilical cord so that's not connected to the skin as much. You'll see a lot of connections through, so make sure everything's kind of opened up along the way. Now, this is the scary part, because if we just leave them like this, it's really hard to see every organ that we have within there, and there are a lot that are going to be within there. So you guys are going to have to kind of open him up a little bit. So I'm going to drain him a little bit. We're going to pause here. I'm going to give him a quick little bath, and we're going to drain him, and then we'll come back and I'll show you guys how to go through and open him up completely. All right, so what I just did is I kind of went through and just washed out him internally, kind of like what we did in the beginning with external. It allows me to see a little bit more clearly, make sure that my diaphragm is cut away from the wall all the way down along both sides. Once again, that diaphragm is the muscle, so you can actually see right there. I'm going to make a better cut on that one. That is connecting or separating out my thoracic and abdominal cavity. I want to make sure everything's kind of cleaned off of that particular cavity here. Cut all the way around, clean up. So like I was saying, there is debris inside of them. Give them a little bath, clean everything out. we need to kind of open them up. We want to see all our different organs. Yeah, I can see a bunch of them now. I can see my heart, I can see my lungs, I can see my liver, I can see the intestines, but there's a bunch more. So we kind of want to invert him a little bit. So this is where we're going to kind of pop him open. So we're going to kind of hold him up just a little bit. Still dripping a little bit from this bath. And we kind of want to grab him so that you have him underneath the arms here, thumbs, and you want to put your fingers right along his spine. And what we're going to do basically, if I have him like that, I'm going to invert my fingers. I'm going to take my fingers and push them forward. I'm pushing that spine up through his particular chest and abdomen. So there are my fingers along that spine. Here he is here. I'm grabbing right along the inside of the chest. And what I want to do is just kind of open him up. That's going to be the view that you guys have for your pig practical. I'm going to put a little cup underneath of him just so he kind of props up so I can go through a lot of these parts for you guys. That's where you want to see him. That's going to be easy for you guys to see him. You guys are going to be pulling these parts out. I'm not going to be doing it. I just kind of want to go through and show you some of the parts that you guys are going to be responsible for. So as we go through these particular parts, one of the easiest ones I think that you guys are going to be able to see, well, first off, know where that diaphragm is. So I can even cut a little bit more right there, just kind of separate it out. So now we're looking at thoracic cavity versus my abdominal cavity. That's the muscle that's separating the two. That means everything up here is going to be lungs, which I have on both sides. You can see right here, there's different lobes to those particular lungs. And then I also have the heart. Surrounding the heart, which I've already kind of taken off, is a pericardium, which is that little sac. So you can see part of it's still there. That sac is containing fluid. It's going to protect the heart. Here's my heart. So I have different chambers of the heart, and we'll break down the heart a little bit more with our ventricles and our atria. So remember that the atria are our top chambers, ventricle are the bottom chambers. The ventricles are a lot more muscular than my atria are. And the reason is my atria ventricles have different jobs. One sending just to the lungs, and one sending to the body, which are your ventricles. Your atrias are just receiving it. So they're not really pumping anywhere. They're just kind of there and receiving blood. The ventricles are the ones who are really pumping for the body into the lungs. So they're going to be a lot more muscular. Once again, our lungs are here. If we go down, there's my diaphragm. Pull that up. Remember the frog, we didn't have that diaphragm. All of this was kind of just in one cavity. If we take a look at our abdominal cavity, this huge organ that you see here is going to be the liver. The liver is going to produce bile. It's going to help to emulsify or break down fats for you. It's going to filter blood, and then underneath of it, if we're able to kind of get underneath, you guys are going to notice right here is a small little organ called the gallbladder. The gallbladder is what's going to basically store the bile. So that's going to be on the underside of your liver that you guys see there. It looks like a little green pea. Some of you guys might have them actually full of bile, so it's going to look like a water balloon under there. This one is not, but it absolutely is attached to it, and that is your gallbladder once again. Underneath the gallbladder, you have this pouch. This pouch right here, it's kind of muscular, feels a little like a balloon-like structure. If you squeeze it, you actually feel some air within it. That's going to be the stomach. So that stomach, if we follow through, you guys can actually follow the esophagus all the way down into that stomach right there. Coming off of the stomach, it actually looks like a little bit of a lip or a tongue coming off of it. That right there is going to be my spleen. So the spleen is kind of part of the immune system. It filters blood, takes out bacteria, and so there is my spleen right there. Looks like that little tongue. And it's kind of hooked onto the underside of the stomach with some mesentery. I'll show you that mesentery here in a moment as well. We have small intestine, we have large intestine. So this intestine you guys are going to be pulling out and you guys are going to be measuring. So intestines are connected by what is known as mesentery, and that's the mesentery right there. It's kind of like a saran wrap. It's like a clear film structure. And what's happening, you guys will see blood vessels in it. So as your small intestine, which is the first intestine that we're coming from the stomach, it's going to reach your small intestine. Your small intestine is where your nutrients are going to be absorbed. So as your stomach is grinding down food, your nutrients are going to be absorbed within your small intestine. And diffusion is occurring. So those little microvilli within that small intestine are absorbing it. It's making it to the blood vessels within this mesentery so that it can be distributed through the rest of your body. Remember, when we talk about digestion and food that you guys eat, your digestion actually starts way up in the mouth. So you actually have physical as well as mechanical digestion. You're breaking it down, you're chewing, you've got enzymes that are helping to break it down. So you got a little chemical, you got a little mechanical digestion, and that's mostly your carbohydrates when we think about that chemical digestion. Think about first year bio, maybe you did the cracker activity. Put the crack in your mouth, let it sit on your tongue, it starts to break down, it starts to digest. Eat the food, makes its way to your stomach. Your stomach is going through mechanical digestion, muscle, it's grinding things up. It's also going through chemical digestion. Here you have a lot of your proteins are broken down. So we're also breaking things down within that small intestine, but your small intestine is also going to go through and pull a lot of those nutrients out. As we start to go through this, you're going to see a grainy-like structure. I need glasses for this part. And that structure that we have, if we pull all this away, this little mesentery, you'll see kind of this really grainy structure down here. I'll pull this mesentery for you guys. That right there that you see, stuff right here, this gray grainy structure, that is your pancreas. This is what is producing insulin for your body, which is a digestive kind of enzyme that we have. So this is my pancreas. It's producing insulin. It's going to help to regulate blood sugars throughout the body. So underneath the stomach, once again, it's going to go to your small intestine. Small intestine is extremely long. It's called small because it's very narrow in diameter as opposed to your large intestine. As you go through, you're going to be pulling this large intestine or the small intestine out. You'll actually kind of break your mesentery and you'll just kind of start tearing it out so that you can measure it. So you'll see where it comes from the stomach and just start kind of disconnecting it and measure the distance of it. You're going to go all the way through. That's all small intestine that you have there. So we're still absorbing all our nutrients. Eventually you're going to get to your large intestine. Large intestine is much shorter, but it's much wider within your diameter. No nutrients are absorbed in your large intestine ever. What's being absorbed in your large intestine is more water as well as vitamins. So if you have trouble with your digestive system and you have trouble with your large intestine and it's not absorbing water the way that it should, that's where you end up with diarrhea. Let's say your large intestine is absorbing too much water. Now you have constipation. So this is the one that's kind of regulating homeostasis within the water within your body there. Eventually you're going to reach the colon. It's going to go out through or exit out through the anus. Urinary bladder, we kind of cut through. You can actually see some of the ureters down here, and where those ureters are connected to are the kidneys. So the kidneys are kind of protected. So you're like, well, I don't really see any kidney bean structures there, which is what the kidneys. If you pull those large and small intestines off to the side and you kind of tease apart that mesentery just a little bit, which is that tissue that you see there, I like the saran wrap, you're going to see within that little bag-like structure, you'll be able to kind of pop them out. There's your kidney. So your kidney is what's filtering your blood for your body. You have one on the right side, one on the left side, or you should. And it's pulling out nitrogenous waste, which is the liquid waste. It's hooked up to those little ureters, which would hook up to the urinary bladder and release it from the body. So you should be able to find one on each side. So right there you can see it as well. It's still underneath, or it's still contained within that mesentery. And once again, it pops out pretty easy. I'm going to ask you guys some questions about that kidney as well. And there's that kidney that we see on that side. You guys should be able to go through all the way through the top. You should be able to look for the larynx or the voice box. You guys should be able to look for some of the glands that you'll see online as well. So we want to go all the way up to the top. And you should be able to see the larynx and the voice box. So it's a little bit wider right there. You should be able to see your trachea. Your trachea is the one that's leading to your lungs. That's kind of your windpipe. You guys should be able to feel it on yourself as well because it has cartilage rings running across it. This is in front of your esophagus. So if you follow down, you can actually stick the metal probe either into the trachea, and if you follow back down the roof of the mouth behind it, you should be able to hit the esophagus. The esophagus is the one that is running down into the stomach. Your trachea is the one that's going into those lungs. So we can hit the bronchi, go all the way down to the villi, and so on. And that's how those gases are going to be exchanged within there. So these are kind of the parts that you guys are going to see or that you guys should be aware of for your practical. So once again, heart, lungs, liver. On the underside, you had your gallbladder. You had your stomach, which is here. You have your spleen, which kind of looks like that little tongue-like structure right there. You've got small intestine. You've got large intestine. Underneath all this stuff, we talked about that nice grainy structure way back here, which is your pancreas. We talked about your kidneys. Those are the parts that you guys should be able to identify. So when your pig practical comes, you're going to see little flags poked into each of these, and there will be multiple versions of them. And you guys have to identify those particular parts and kind of give me a function or give us a function of what they do for the body. Or maybe we'll have a little matching section for those particular functions for you guys. Okay, so if you have questions on this, please let us know. If you'd like to join a group for those of you guys at home so you can physically see what's going on with it, please let us know. We'll put you in a breakout group.